and welcome to another exciting episode of World of Business, your weekly update into trending news and latest developments on the stock markets. It's also on this show we herald unsung but thriving business entrepreneurs. My name is Tafara Bendaguta. Now, recent remarks by the Minister of Finance and Investment Promotion, Professor Mthuli Ncube, have emphasized the importance of paying suppliers in local currency, the local ZiG, as part of ongoing efforts towards monetary stability and de-dollarization. Now, we'll discuss this and more in the second segment, but before we get into all of that, let us give you the exchange rates as they are as of today. The Zimbabwe Gold to the US dollar interbank rate was at 25.45 ZiG. The Zimbabwe Gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 33.93 ZiG. The Zimbabwe Gold to the Euro interbank rate was at 29.27 ZiG. The Zimbabwe Gold to the South African Rand interbank rate was at 0.65 ZiG. The Zimbabwe Gold to the Botswana Pula interbank rate was at 1.81 ZiG. We also give you commodity prices as they are on the global market. Gold per ounce traded at $5,012 after it went up by 0.09 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $80.01 after it went down by 0.91 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $572.45 after it went up by 0.12 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $2,121 after it went down by 0.36 percentage points. And that's it for this first segment of World of Business. Do stay tuned. We've got more to unpack on this show, only on World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Welcome to the second segment of World of Business, your program where we unpack all of the economic developments shaping Zimbabwe and beyond. And on this episode, we are focusing on strengthening the use of the local currency, the ZiG, in government procurement and what this means for the broader economy. Now, recent remarks by Professor Mthuli Ncube have emphasized the importance of paying using the suppliers using our local currency as part of ongoing efforts towards monetary stability and de-dollarization. Now, to help us explore all of this, we are joined by Mr. Ugaro, who is the president of Zimbabwe Economic Society and is also the senior economist at Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Ugaro, it's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Tafara. I'm pleased to be here.
Now, let's just jump straight into it. What is the background to this development and why is it so important for government to pay suppliers in local currency, i.e. the ZiG?
This is a significant step, which of course was expected in the market as we move towards the monocurrency. The market always was expecting that more and more transactions should be carried out in local currency. So in the statement that you're referring to, which was issued on Friday, on the 12th by the Minister of Finance, he also actually released what is called the National Standard Price List, for standardizing prices across all MDAs and SOEs, so that there's transparency in terms of how much a good or a service is priced in the market. It's based on the market.
Regardless of the province that they're in?
Yes, no. The market just hopes that this price list will be updated frequently in line with changes in the market. But it is a significant move towards the implementation of the monocurrency route. Of course, currently, we know that the proportion of transactions between ZiG and dollars in the market is still about 30 to 70%. The government has moved on to say everything will now be paid in ZiG. Perhaps the market thinks that perhaps the ratios should have been aligned to that current status that is applying. But otherwise, the move was expected in the market, and it is anticipated. And it was buttressed, by the way, on the same date by a statement from the central bank, also released on the 13th, which was Friday, guaranteeing the market that when you have your ZiG and you have a genuine import need, you are guaranteed of accessing foreign currency in the banks. The central bank goes on to say we have received about 16 billion worth of US dollars worth of export receipts or forex receipts, which has helped to buttress our reserves to about 1.2, 1.5 months forex cover. So they are very confident that the market needs for foreign currency will be met. And so they are guaranteeing, the two statements actually complementing each other, guaranteeing the market that yes, service and goods providers to the government will be paid in local currency, but then they are also guaranteed of accessing foreign currency
when they need it
for genuine imports.
Okay. Now, how can government procurement help promote wider acceptance and use of the ZiG across different sectors of the economy?
As a starting point, the minister's statement actually specifically mentions that precedence or preference is given to local suppliers, locally produced goods. So this is promotion of the Buy Zimbabwe mantra, which actually should be promoting demand for the goods and services produced by local companies, and by so doing paying also in local currency. This is good for economic growth and employment creation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what are the economic benefits of reducing reliance on foreign currency in public spending? You can be very broad on this one.
Yes, it reduces pressure on the exchange rate because a lot of the spending is local. And naturally, as the statement says, local expenditures should be in local currency. By so doing, we localize our cost of production or our operating expenses. That makes the economy competitive. It makes the cost of production competitive. The only proviso there is that the exchange rate must be stable.
Now, Mr. Ogaro, talking about exchange rate, what is happening across the world, will it not affect our drive as a country? Because right now we're trying to promote our local currency, which is very good. Every country should promote its local currency. But will this not be affected by the geopolitical situation happening across the world?
Yeah, that's a very important point. It's unavoidable. This is what we economists call exogenous, meaning it's out of control. No one can control this.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It's like drought. If it comes, you just face it. So indeed, what is happening in the Middle East is that because of the lack of movement of shipping, it's affecting the supply of petroleum. And it has caused petroleum prices to shoot up through the roof.
I think our government has got reserves of fuel for the next couple of months.
3 months, yes. So we do hope that that situation in the Middle East will not be prolonged for a long time, so that it gets resolved earlier. But unavoidably, we need to acknowledge it as a source of pressure for inflation, because that will filter through the economy through increased prices. At the moment, it's moderated, and we hope that as soon as that crisis is resolved, then we go back to normal. The release of this statement by the minister is just the release of the statement, but it's not really new if you look at it, because the government was always anyway paying many suppliers in local currency, especially contractors, which was previously causing problems, because we were saying when they get paid, it was affecting the exchange rate. So the implementation of that was always there, but it's only that now it's being formalized. And I think the market is saying, that's fine, pay us on time. The government must pay on due dates. There must not be payment delays, so that working capital for businesses is not hindered. The government is saying, try and review. The market is thinking, because transactions at the moment is still 30, 40 to 60, 70%, maybe it could be moderated maybe the government could consider moving along those ratios. As the monetary policy statement says, the road to mono currency is market driven.
Yes.
So it will be self-driving. So perhaps the government could match, maybe to try and motivate a faster pace. Yes, they could do maybe even a 50-50, but going towards mono currency. So, but it is what the market was expecting.
Now, talking about the statement released by the minister, what key message should businesses take from this, especially the local suppliers who want to work with government?
I think the open for business mantra, the government is saying they're open, come and trade with us.
Yes, it's not just for our international partners, it's also local.
They're actually saying the preference is for locally produced goods and services.
All right.
So there is a market. The government drives about 70% of this market, and they're saying they're open, so people are able to bid for government business through PRAS, of course, using that standard price list that was given, which is now standard across all MDAs and across all SOEs, because in the past it was really hodgepodge. So in that regard, also the market expects that there's discipline from the fiscal side, that the MDAs will be contracting what is within their budgets, so that there are no delays in settling when the contractors have performed, and that they are all aligned.
All right. Yes. Now, I'm curious, as a trivial question, how does paying suppliers in ZiG help increase circulation and usage of the currency across the economy?
Yes, and that is a very crucial point you're asking, and the communication of it is very important. I can tell you that there's a chance of the market misunderstanding it. It is not saying the supply of ZiG is increasing.
All right.
Yeah, because we've already seen the parallel market kind of reacted when that statement was issued, because the impression was the government is now going to release ZiG into the market. No, that's not what it means. What government is saying is that they are paying what they were previously contracting anyway in ZiG, and the market is saying pay the ZiG on time. That the supply is not going to increase. What it will do to the economy is to increase productivity, make productivity efficient because of lower costs, so that we move away from benchmarking our costs on US dollars, which is a hard currency, which makes the market or production very uncompetitive. So that's a huge benefit. But the communication of it needs to be very clear, that this is not an increase in the supply of ZiG. It is, perhaps it's going to increase liquidity, but not the supply of ZiG. So when the market eventually will discover that, in fact, the same amount of ZiG is circulating in the market, the rate will correct. I think it moved slightly to that statement, but I think that it will correct. As you see, the official rate is actually appreciating.
Yes.
So this shows that we're moving in the right direction.
All right. Now, that's wonderful, Mr. Ogaro. Now join us after the break as we look at how consistency, confidence, and reliable payments can further strengthen the adoption of the ZiG. Stay tuned on World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Welcome back to the final segment of World of Business as we continue our discussion on how government procurement can support wider adoption of the ZiG, focusing on how confidence building and long-term economic impact is needed. We're still joined by Mr. Mishek Ugaro, who's the president of Zimbabwe Economic Society and is also the senior economist at Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. Now, Mr. Ugaro, let's jump straight into it. How can consistent government payment practices support greater confidence in the use of the ZiG?
Indeed. Because it now improves the liquidity of companies in the market. It improves the cash flows, and that then makes it possible for companies to plan well ahead and consistently in terms of their production schedules. And the demand from government is, that the fact that they will be paying, if they pay on time, that is a boost to confidence. The circulation of the ZiG will become more common, which is ideally what we are trying to drive at. And along the announcements by the monetary policy statement, this is one of the conditions precedent that was clearly elucidated by the governor, that this is one of the conditions precedent. The next one, which is very important, will be the foreign currency reserves. We must build those to about 5 months, 6 months import cover. And I think the market will be very happy when we hit that, because I know that will make the country able to buy fuel in local currency, which is, I think this is the start.
That's where we actually need to
This
hit,
is where
we
going.
can buy fuel in local currency.
Yes, indeed. I might just as well add that the fact that the government will be paying in ZiG to contractors means they need ZiG themselves
Yes.
to pay. So it means they will begin now. This is a signal to any analyst that the government will soon be collecting taxes in ZiG, because they have to fund, they have to create the ZiG, they have to collect the ZiG from the market in order to pay the contractors. So this is a first step. For a person like me, my next step, anticipated step, is the government collecting taxes in ZiG.
All right.
And so doing, improving the circulation and acceptance of the ZiG on the market.
Now, what role does confidence play in encouraging businesses to accept and transact in ZiG? And how do we build this confidence?
I think like moves like this, and sticking to it, and not changing, and listening also to the feedback from the market. Like as we're speaking, I think I was giving some kind of feedback,
Yes, that's right.
which is positive feedback, which the authorities need to take into account and listen to that feedback, and implement what the market is saying. The market is not rejecting this. The market is actually accepting it, but it is just giving some pointers to some potentially unintended consequences, which must be guarded against.
Now, just to take you back, as a trivial question, does this also apply to SMEs and those who are not formally registered, the informal sector? Does this also apply to them? Do they qualify? Indeed, yes.
Anybody who supplies government with a product or with service qualifies. It actually means anyone able to tender for government business at price, for example, is in this category. So it doesn't matter where you are coming from, as long as you can do the job, you bid, and you have got the necessary registration documents. Obviously, to qualify to be a bidder at price, you need to be having formal documents, proper company documents. So everyone, it's right across the board, yes.
All right. Now, but how can timely and reliable payments from government influence private sector behavior? We were looking at the public sector, but what about the inclusion of the private sector?
Yes. Like I said at the beginning, the government is estimated to be about 70% of this market. So it means the private sector, 70% of the business being done by the private sector is with the government.
All right.
So this move and timely payments means that the businesses that are supplying business are now more able to turn around quickly and increase their turnovers and productivity.
All right. Now, I'm curious, what impact can increased use of ZiG in procurement have on overall economic activity and circulation of money?
Yeah, it's basically the same things that we've been talking about. Confidence. It boosts the exchange rate, stability of the exchange rate. In fact, I might want to give you an example of a country that uses its own currency. And in this environment where petroleum prices are going up, it is actually reducing fuel prices. And that country is Zambia.
Okay, our sister country.
Yes, because they're selling their fuel in local currency, which is where we are heading. So that's a big benefit of using your local currency. Sometimes you can be able to cushion the developments that happen outside your borders. You do not directly import it. As true. It is, because of we dollarized, whatever happens outside is directly transmitted to us. Now, so using our local currency actually is a cushion.
We are hoping that we have a monocurrency by 2030. Is it possible we could have it earlier than that, say probably by this time next year, 2027 or 2028? Yeah. Is that a target that is achievable?
In fact, we're no longer saying by 2030.
All right.
That moniker has been removed for a good reason. Since the authorities are saying the market will drive the process, there's no need to put a deadline.
All right.
So it can be earlier than 2030, it can be later than 2030. It depends on what the market says. So the market will self-drive, and as we are saying, 70% of the market is spoken through this press statement.
No, so
it is driving. That's the market speaking. That's also. Because the government is part of the market.
Yes, it is.
So it is market driven, so we're no longer saying by 2030. We're just heading towards monocurrency whenever that happens. It can be next year,
hopefully,
or it can be 2032.
Yes,
it can be any time that goal gets achieved.
All right. Now, looking ahead, what outcomes can Zimbabwe expect if local currency usage and procurement is sustained?
Then we expect stable economic growth, sustained economic growth, employment creation, reduction of unemployment, and perhaps a rising standards of living for the population.
Upper middle income society by 2030 or less.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. These are two different concepts. The upper middle income society is different from the monocurrency issue.
Please go deeper.
Yes. So the upper middle income society is regardless of whether we're using one currency, monocurrency, or we're still multi-currency.
All right.
We are saying that the population, the society, must have reached at least about $2,400 per person in terms of gross national income by that time. But monocurrency is saying we want to be using monocurrency whenever the market solely settles on using monocurrency. It can be any time between now and whatever period it is. But from the way things are going, my own view is that I don't think we will get to 2030.
All right.
I think we'll probably achieve this before 2030.
I feel the same.
Yes.
Probably late next year or 2028,
maybe.
We'll have our monocurrency.
Yes.
Now, thank you very much, Mr. Ogaro, for joining us and sharing such valuable perspectives. Now, as highlighted by Professor Mthuli Ncube, consistent use of the ZiG in public transactions can help build confidence, improve circulation, and support long-term economic resilience. From all of us here at ZBC, thank you for joining us. My name is Tafaranda Guta. From myself and the crew behind the scenes, it's back to business.
ZBC News, the real African voice.